We are in Friuli Venezia Giulia, a frontier land. Here the border is not only a physical line, but a deep cultural feature which is part of people's daily life. My name is Katia and I'm 37 years old. Born in 1981, I didn't experience the war, but I do live on the border. I live in Savogna di Sonzo near Gorizia, and practically only one river divides us from Slovenia. I have many friends on both sides of the river. My professional path has resulted in me working in Slovenia, so I spend half my time in Italy and the other half in Slovenia. I live on the Italian side of the border. However, my nationality and my background are Slovenian. Accordingly, I am part of the Slovenian minority living in Italy. My children, like me, have attended and are attending Slovenian schools, as I believe this is essential. In my own personal experience during my teenage years, I experienced a lot of difficulty because I could not be clearly categorized into one country. Italians saw me as Slovenian, and Slovenians identified me as Italian, in both cases in a negative sense. It took a lot of effort on my part to be seen as reliable or credible in the eyes of either side. I see now the situation has changed. The schools my children attend are full of children with Italian-speaking parents, while they have their children learn the Slovenian language. This gives them a greater opportunity for social inclusion, but also for future employment. It also allows them to return to their own roots. They are often parents who have not learned the Slovenian language, but their roots are Slovenian. That is, their grandparents and great-grandparents were Slovenian, and between generations, they have lost this heritage and do not want their children to lose it. I am Diana and I was born in Koper. At the time, it was an official border between Slovenia and Italy. However, this border was never a huge obstacle to cross to visit Trieste and buy items at a time when there was still a lack of goods in Yugoslavia. My mother is from Trieste and my father is from Ljubljana. For me, the border has always been more than what divides me, but also what unites me. I've tried since I was a child to identify what were the features that united me to the other side. When I was in Slovenia, I was with the Italian one, and when I was in Trieste, I was with the Slovenian one, at that time Yugoslavian. The border crossing is still visible, but the boundaries are becoming increasingly blurred since one can freely move across the border, thus conveying the idea of an ever stronger Europe. Being a citizen of Trieste, I was born with the border surrounding the city. I have always thought of it as an unnatural barrier because, when I was young, I always crossed it to get petrol and other supplies for my parents. Later, we met many times with the trade unions in Koper and Cesana, with whom we developed a relationship. We fought together through the Interregional Trade Union Council, CIGL, CISL, UIL, and in the two Slovenian confederations in order to overcome and break down this barrier. We fought for Slovenia to enter the European Union. We successfully fought for the barriers to be cleared at the border in order for there to be free movement of citizens, but also for workers. I am Luciano. I belong to the CISL Regional Secretariat of Friuli Venezia Giulia, and I am an CISL trade union leader. In my opinion, the border is something that limits and sets administrative boundaries. It is also a border that hinders the movement of workers from one country to another. The mobility of workers is often affected by obstacles to a certain extent, and these can make people's lives more complicated. This border has not been policed since 2007 and is no longer a boundary where we have to prove that we have the right to cross it. Nevertheless, from my experience, it remains a nuisance, particularly since I began working in the union in 2002 and I have been asked to take care of frontier workers moving between the two countries. One passes between one country and another without realizing it. However, although the border is no longer policed, it continues to be an administrative boundary. It is a border between two countries that legislate on the same subjects in different ways. These are two countries that seem to have forgotten that there are people moving unrestricted between their borders and that these people need to have their lives simplified even if they decide to live in one country and work in a neighboring country. My name is Matteo. I'm a cross-border worker in the sense that I currently live in Slovenia with my family, but I work in Italy and travel to work every day across the border. This border basically doesn't exist for me anymore, since Slovenia joined Schengen. I don't know of any border controls anymore, so for me the border is just the sign at the border telling me that I'm passing from one country to another. In my case, at least, the border is evident, especially when I have to solve administrative issues. These are linked to my occupation, to my residence, or to the tax deduction of my income. Applying for my daughter's welfare benefits is an example of these administrative difficulties. Ordinarily, if you live and work in a country, these benefits are automatic. However, in my case, a whole series of questions and supporting documents must be submitted. This, unfortunately, takes time and mental energy. Otherwise, yes, it is a boundary that I do not feel, except for the forms that I have to fill out periodically every year. Lately, working in the frontier, I'm finding many obstacles and many problems connected with the former border. Hindrances to the rights of workers who are not treated in the same way and do not have equal rights. The union's commitment to this Euradria project is to remove obstacles so that workers can work peacefully on both sides of the border. Despite everything, however, the border remains a great opportunity, and the idea that the diversity marked by a border is a wealth to be protected, a precious asset to be guarded. I believe that by overcoming borders, we need to rethink that what we want to achieve here in Europe lies above all in the ability to understand each other, to accept their differences, rather than making them become a distinguishing feature that separates us, but rather a new factor that unites us. This is achieved through learning languages, through the exchange of work, and therefore also through employment, so we can work under equal conditions, whether we work on either side of the border. It means overcoming it. It means making it an enriching experience because it provides new opportunities, and above all, only in this way we can overcome those mental barriers that exist inevitably when we encounter differences. Only in this way can we move forward and integrate our continent. How do I live on the border? Let's say it's just changed a bit over the years. Nowadays, the mindset is much more open, perhaps because there is a difference. It is not just our longtime neighbors who come from other lands, and we might say that intolerance has seeped into our thinking. It's also true, however, that perhaps the second generation of people living in these lands is finally persuaded that knowing the culture and language of a neighbor is an attitude of open-mindedness that can also help us. In short, both from a work point of view, but also from a personal point of view. So, I believe and hope we're in a phase of improvement. And surely the fact that we're all under a European Union flag has helped the state of mind. We're now waiting and working for the institutions to follow the evolution of the population living here on the border, collaborating with the help of projects such as that of Euradria 1. I believe that these border areas can be an example of coexistence. In the past, there was a lot of instrumentalism in relation to the border with Yugoslavia. I think, on the other hand, that today this border, which has been demolished but has remained in the minds of many people, has definitely been cancelled, and now there is normal mobility between the two areas. I believe that this is a good thing. There are many issues to collaborate on, including culture, science, harbors, and cohabitation. It is no coincidence that now that there is the Barcolana, there are a lot of Slovenes who come to Trieste, as we frequently go to Ljubljana or Koper to have an aperitif and to meet friends. I believe that this is a positive example of living together and crossing a border that does no longer need to exist, certainly at least within the European Union. The border teaches us that to be open, ready to cooperate, and to feel part of something bigger. This is also the spirit of Euradria project. My name is Vanessa and I'm project manager at Informest. Before becoming a part of the Euradria project, I never realized that the border was a problem. I've seen all the obstacles that affect cross-border workers on a daily basis, and I'm sure that through this project we will be able to provide support. Dobar dan, good morning. My name is Alessia. I work in public employment services and I belong to the Euradria partnership. I learned the sense of collaboration during the course of this project. I learned what it means to belong to a team and what it means to talk about professional mobility in Europe. Let's say that, with regard to the concept of a frontier, a sentence comes to my mind. It is an invisible border within a historically indivisible territory. I believe that these border areas can be an example of coexistence. In the past, there was a lot of instrumentalism in relation to the border with Yugoslavia. I think, on the other hand, that today this border, which has been demolished but has remained in the minds of many people, has definitely been cancelled. And now there is normal mobility between the two areas. I believe that this is a good thing. There are many issues to collaborate on, including culture, science, harbors, and cohabitation. It is no coincidence that now that there is the Barcolana, there are a lot of Slovenes who come to Trieste, as we frequently go to Ljubljana or Koper to have an aperitif and to meet friends. I believe that this is a positive example of living together and crossing a border that does no longer need to exist, certainly at least within the European Union.